Hey everyone, welcome to Tickets to Travel, the only podcast that discusses the business of travel experiences. In this episode, we meet Jordan Scheffler, one of the co-founders of Crewfare. What is Crewfare? Crewfare is a travel software company that specializes in group travel logistics. For event travel, Crewfare offers a user-friendly digital interface for booking event travel, which includes hotels, tickets plus hotel, and VIP hospitality packages. Crewfare software also allows event producers to source hotel rooms, create RFPs, compare against market value, and negotiate terms directly with those hotels. So stay tuned for more information and remember to subscribe where you get your podcast because Tickets to Travel starts now. Welcome to Tickets to Travel. I'm your host, Mario Bedouin, and this is the only podcast where you talk about the business of travel experiences. And today we have Jordan Scheffler, one of the three founders of Crewfare. Jordan, welcome to the podcast. I've done a bit of research about Crewfare. I don't think many people know what you guys really specialize in. So I want to take this opportunity to give you the floor. But what I do know is that you, Zach, and Jason started your careers in nightlife, in event producing. How did you guys, one, meet? And then two, how did you transition to travel?
So we met in kind of a funny way that I don't always share. Good one. I was a high school DJ back in the day. And so I went to University of Miami, which is where Jason and Zach both went. And when I was a freshman, Jason had this big spring break trip that he had just started under the title STFU and Party, a very good collegiate spring break title.
Yes.
I reached out about DJing. Next thing I know, I am the spring break DJ of UM. Me and Jason got very close that way. Me and Zach didn't really know each other too well in college, but him and Jason were always good friends. But so anyway, throughout college, Jason and I started, throwing events together and just getting a foothold in the Miami entertainment scene, the destination travel scene. And I went on to work for a big hospitality company in Miami called MMG, which is now called Grid Hospitality. And I actually hired Jason over there, who then hired Zach. And it's sort of like a string of us all going through this hospitality organization. But my background was that I always wanted to be in the event space. And so I went on to produce the Preakness Stakes, the Pegasus World Cup, and some music festivals in between. So I became very ingrained in the event, talent, production arenas.
Okay, but not as a DJ.
No, not a DJ. So you don't bring that up. Yeah, and I would do everything because it was a small company, from sell the tickets to book the talent to deal with the production vendors and load-ins to the travel of all the staff, of all of the horseman groups, because this was a horse racing organization. So I became very familiar with everything from top to bottom of how you produce events. At a large scale. I dealt with the NBC broadcast and everything else. So I was over there doing that. Jason was leading all of the technology operations at Grid Hospitality while he was simultaneously building this student travel company, which has become one of the largest student travel companies in the US. Got a foothold in Bimini, Bahamas, and that's been his home ever since. And Zach is just a hospitality king. He had offers to work for every major hospitality company out there. He's one of the most connected people that I know, and he was just killing it in his own right. But when COVID hit and the events world was slowing down a bit, Jason and I started talking about this idea that he had always had around simplifying group travel, because he dealt with it more than anybody else. You have thousands of students coming to a destination. They want payment plans. They want to stay with their specific roommates. They want to change their rooms. They want tickets to events. And Jason was handling all of this on spreadsheets. Huge customer service operation to keep everything going. And he always thought there has to be a better way of doing this, but was never able to find it. So he came to me with this idea. We discussed it a little bit. And then finally, when COVID hit and things were slow, we decided to take a leap and go for it. So he spoke to me about it. I was in. He spoke to Zach about it. Zach was in, and we got going. And so the whole premise of Crewfare was that we wanted to change the way that group and event travel was handled. Everything from the management of it to the attendees going to the staff coming into town, and just simplifying that. And what we realized very quickly is that hotels and events, they're not just going to work with you because you have an idea. It's a very relationship-based business. So we found that the low-hanging fruit was that there were very few companies out there that were helping events monetize travel. So we were like, why don't we just go to all of our event partners that we're familiar with and that know us as these guys that have always grinded and been able to pull off whatever they needed to and trust us and ask them to give us a shot. So we went to the Preakness Stakes. And of course I said, and I could say this now, but I was like, oh, my friend Jason is working on this thing and you guys should really use him.
Right.
And they were like, okay, let's do it. So then we were like, all right, we have a real,
they got a use case. You've got a client finally.
Yeah. So I was like, all right, now we have to actually figure out how we build this thing. And what Jason was always very good at that I commend him on is he just goes for things. Whereas I'm a perfectionist and I'm more of that mentality of like plan out the launch of the product and you deal with fundraising and everything else. And Jason's like, no, we're just going to do it. We're going to go for it. And now I realize that that's my core belief in how you operate in business, right? So we went online, we looked up hotel booking websites, like how to build one. Me, Jason, and Zach just went online, built like the most rudimentary version of a booking platform that could exist. And I remember we got like the hotel modals to hover a little bit when you hovered over them. And we thought that that was like the coolest thing ever. So
very cutting edge.
So we launched with the Preakness Stakes just to see what would happen. And overnight we made real money. We were like, holy shit, this is,
yeah. Well, I mean, that was going to be one of my questions actually. Was there a particular time where the three of you just looked at each other and said, we have something here. This is different.
Yeah, on sale, because we started selling. We had only put a few $100s into it at the very most. And we started selling a large volume of hotel rooms. We were the customer service. We were the operations. We made it look like the seamless system, but we were the ones on the back end. I was John on the customer service team and Zach was the account management rep. And really it was just the three of us handling all of this while we had other full-time jobs. So we just kept pumping money into the company as we were earning it and started to build the systems out to make them scalable once we realized we had something there. And the attendee travel side was always the low-hanging fruit for us. We knew that there was a bigger need in the market for that group travel space, but that's where you really needed to develop custom software and build.
Right. So is it safe to say you're the head of product and tech for Crewfare?
Correct. Yes. So I lead product tech and marketing. Actually, we're still
and marketing. You just multiple hats.
Yeah.
No, because I was curious about backing up to the original use case, right? With the student travel, because I have a little bit of a background there and I understand sort of the complexities there. And that's why I think the software is amazing. Assigning rooms for college kids is difficult. And so I'm just curious, like, what was the thought process with you guys to say, here's the problem, here's how we have to manage the solution to make everyone's lives easier. So whether it's assigning the rooms or it's just managing the hotel contracts.
Yeah. The great thing about what we did is we got to build around the specific problems that we faced. So once we launched and we started working with these events and they said the attendee travel is great, but we're dealing with staff travel. And that is where a lot of that comes into play. And it is very similar to student travel. And we were dealing with everything on these spreadsheets and email communications with the different vendors and everything. We were simultaneously trying to build tools to automate a lot of that and to rely less on human capital, because at one point, Jason was up 24 hours a day and his entire focus was taking care of every single person for thousands of rooms. And that's where Backstage came out of. Backstage is our event travel management platform that we launched fully within the past 6 months. And it has been incredible, the pickup that we've gotten and the client base that we've been able to secure. But the whole premise there is that you can send private booking links to your different groups, right? Set the different payment parameters and any parameters around the hotels that they could stay at, the room types, the dates that you want them to be able to be there. And then that all comes into a centralized system where you can make all of those changes, those assignments, that communication between the hotels and the vendors in one centralized place. And that was something we had never seen before, right? So we spent years perfecting it before we brought it from an internal tool to a SaaS product that we could really bring out there. But we're at the point now where the feedback we've gotten on it is just that this is completely unique and it's a very needed solution.
Yeah. I mean, I had a bit of that, putting together some of these destination festivals. Who knew that the main artists didn't want to hang out with the dancers or with the band? There's all these nuances. And I think from an event producer's perspective, they want to maintain those relationships and make sure that they're very happy. So having a private link to book and also get them to commit, because that's the most impressive thing I think about software is that they have to commit. Because if anybody's worked in entertainment before, managing the artist and some of their preferences alongside a writer or anything else that they've already predetermined as part of that performance is really, really tough to manage and to get them to adhere to. So the private links piece, I think, is a differentiator for managing these type of groups.
Yeah. And what was interesting for me is that I dealt with it a lot on the credentialing side and asset requests at events, right? It's a very similar concept. You have all of these different vendors and groups that need different credential types, different assets for their teams. And all of them push back. We don't know the names of the people coming yet. Like we aren't covering the cost of this one. They are. Right. And I got very familiar with project management solutions in the event space. And it was a very similar concept. So I was able to bring a lot of that knowledge over to figure out what those pain points were in that world and sort of merge it with what hotels are and what these vendors are used to. And so when we talk about private links, that's something that didn't even exist in that credential and asset request space. And we were able to create that for vendors and everybody in between. So yeah, it's been amazing.
Because that stems from even the college tour groups to a certain degree. Because that's how some of this is sold, is you have a rep, they have a private link, they send it out and they allocate certain rooms to it. So it was interesting that you guys were able to find a parallel very easily in event travel that can make it happen. The Tickets to Travel podcast is always brought to you by Expo Travel. Expo Travel is experiences optimized travel, assisting B2B startups and companies with business development in online travel and entertainment ticketing distribution. If your company is looking for ways to boost revenue, increase average order values, or activate your member base with either travel or entertainment ticketing, contact the team at Expo Travel for a consultation today. Visit XPO Travel. I get asked quite a bit where your name came from. What is Crewfare exactly? Because when I talk to someone on the travel side and I say, hey, have you heard of Crewfare? They're like, oh yeah, they do airline groups and stuff at the hotel. And so I'm curious as to what, it could be a very simple origin story on the name, but where did you guys come up with it?
Yeah, there really isn't a good origin story around that name. I think Jason came up with it and his whole thing was we have these groups of people coming, that's your crew, and fair was just a good travel term that he wanted to use. But at this point, we love the name and it's synonymous with what we do in our brand. But it's funny because if you type in like, what is Crewfare to AI or anything else like that, it also thinks that we're a flight services portal. So we definitely get a lot of that. So it's funny, but no really unique origin story to that name.
So it's like the domain name was available. It made sense. We want to invite the crew. And so that's what you guys went with to get out to the market.
Yeah, Jason's a big fan of buying up available domain names. So the first thing he does whenever we think of something is look at whether that domain is available.
I get it. And it's an investment, right? It's an investment in future businesses that you're going to create. So you work with a ton of these large music festivals, whether it's Lollapalooza, Ultra Miami, Rolling Loud. What do you think the product has given to them as these large sort of brands in the festival space that allows them to have a differentiator against other festivals in some cases? Because I see you and Crewfare as a bit of the secret sauce that helps them manage things operationally. Obviously, you would agree, but do you have any particular stories or thoughts around working with some of these big festival promoters?
Yeah, there's two sides to it. So on the attendee side, events were either not monetizing that travel or they were working with legacy travel agencies that were a completely manual process. So the return on that revenue was very, very slim. Or they were working with your just typical OTAs where the deals that they were offering the attendees were no better than what was available online and the commission structure wasn't favorable to that. So on that side, we really focused on our ability to get discounted rates because of the amount of volume we were bringing to these hotels and creating a sort of win-win ecosystem by saying, hey, Hotel A, we're going to put you in front of all of this event's audience, give us your best rate, and we'll be able to sell these rooms. Go to the event and say, you guys aren't making nearly what you could be making on travel, and we can make it a cohesive part of your sales experience. And once a few events saw that, they all saw a huge increase in what they were able to generate. I don't know the exact number, but I know we did upwards of 5 to 10x with some of our major event partners from what they were doing previously on the attendee side. And then on the operational side of things, every one of these events had a person similar to what I was at Preakness, right? Where I was handling the travel and 100 other things at the same time. So I was doing the best job that I could. And I was a hustler like everybody else in the event space, not sleeping, but that's not the most efficient way, right? And you also don't want to have to hire a staff of people to work on travel. So bringing our Backstage solution to a lot of these events has allowed them to reduce an insane amount of man or woman hours to manage all of that, right? So it's a cost savings on the operations side. They're able to leverage us and our expertise on the sourcing and contracting side, and then really create this centralized portal where they don't really even have to think about the travel beyond what the parameters are that they want set for these groups, and making sure that the customer service is taken care of.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. One thing that I think is a unique distinction for Crewfare as well is not only are you a B2B software company, but you're also B2C in a lot of ways. And one of the ways that you do this is through marketing. And you did a promotion last year that was a festival goer for hire. How did you come up with that particular promotion, and how did it perform? And are you doing it again?
Yeah, we've done it twice now, actually. So last year we had Festi for Hire, where we were like, we have all of this great event content. Everyone we know wants to go to these events. We want to go to these events. How cool would it be if we were to leverage our technology, our experience, our event partners to create this unique travel on the road with us type of experience? So we launched it where you had to submit a video of why you should be our Festi for Hire, which is a person who would go on the road for us, take videos of themselves experiencing it, and the entire process of booking with Crewfare to showing up at the event. So we launched that and it went completely viral. It was our best campaign yet by far. And I think we had over 30,000 applicants that submitted to this.
Wow.
Yeah, we repeated that this past year. We rebranded it to Explorer Wanted because we have a new product called Crewfare Explorer, which is an event discovery platform. So we did that same thing, and our Explorer is actually on the road right now. I'm doing the same thing. She's great. She's getting lots of influencer style content at these events, and you could check it all out on our Instagram for real-time updates.
Very cool. So as the marketing guru who kind of came up with this in a way, I mean, I'm sure it was a team effort. What do you think is next? What do you think is the gap in terms of marketing these type of events through Crewfare? Because you mentioned that you're building out Explore, I believe, which is a marketplace. What do you think is next as your focus?
Yeah, so we have a very strong brand when it comes to our marketing presence. We're very good at creating good content, pushing that out, and making sure that our audience is very engaged with that content on the consumer side. So now what we're really trying to grow, because we have these SaaS products that we want to go into new market segments with, is our B2B marketing. And so we're starting to get a lot more sophisticated with our analytical and digital metric tracking and presence and how we go about that and targeting these proper audiences. So that's really the next step in evolution for our marketing team. And then another really big asset of ours is because we work with all of these great events, we have a very strong domain presence, right? If you search hotels near Rolling Loud, for example, we come at the top because we now have a high enough Google ranking that it knows Crewfare is where you go for event travel. So we're trying to leverage that to really get a strong foothold in the event travel presence on Google. So SEO and strong metric-based digital marketing is what we're very focused on.
Got it. So you're obviously collecting a lot of amazing data about festival goers. Do you share this with your promoters, with your clients as well? Or how does that relationship work? Because I think the data piece is really what's missing in terms of event travel. So whether it's a fan who's coming into Ultra Miami from New York, kind of understanding where their origination destination is, or just profiles of where they may stay. I think all of that stuff would be really valuable to a promoter. Is that something that you guys also provide?
Yeah. So we have a ton of data and analytics that we provide to our partners. We are very strict on, we believe in consumer privacy and we want to be compliant with everything out there. So we are as cognizant as we can be of making sure that the data that we share is approved by the user to be shared. But anything that we have access to, our event partners have access to. And yes, you can see things like what the best hotels in the market are, what the highest conversions are, what the average demographic of everybody coming, and even the user databases and anything like that. As long as we can share that information in a compliant way, we're true partners. So we want them to have everything that we do.
Yeah. So from that, I mean, you've been doing this for a while. Like, what are some, I guess, characteristics of a festival goer who's traveling? Any tidbits of information that might be interesting in terms of the type of hotel that they stay in? How long do they stay? Things of that nature. Anything that comes to mind that just sort of blew your mind about these type of travelers?
It is very dependent on the event, but I would say for most of the music festivals, you're really in that 18 to 24 space for the traveler who's not buying a VIP experience.
Right.
And with those groups, it's generally a 2-night stay. But when you get to some of the higher end events that we work with, it could be in that 35 range. And that's when you get up to the 3 and 4 night stays. And I would say we don't really do anything below a 3 or 4 star hotel. So between 3 and 5 stars is generally our sweet spot.
Gotcha. And then in terms of the most popular destinations for festivals, like what I think I can figure that out to a certain degree, but what has been big sellers for Crewfare?
In terms of cities, our strongest foothold is in Miami. We are very bullish on a lot of the secondary markets. For example, Dreamville, one of our partners, we sold out that entire city when that event came to town. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity for festivals entering these markets that are not in major cities where you could get land and production costs are a little bit cheaper, but there's a high demand of travelers who want to come into that market and just need an excuse to. So we try to work with a lot of the tourism boards, the cities and events to figure out what some of those destinations can be. But obviously your major cities are always going to be the bread and butter of where these events like to try to get as close as possible to.
And so if you're trying to build your own package on Crewfare, what is the best way to do that? Essentially, like what is the dream package, maybe from your perspective, that could be booked on Crewfare? What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, so Crewfare has the capability to do accommodations, tickets, and extras like shuttle passes, merchandise, anything in that realm. So the ideal package scenario that we offer is, one, we have the ability to gate our rates, which is a huge thing for hotels and for events because you now are able to offload hotel inventory and even ticket or extra inventory that you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot by putting out publicly, right? So through packaging rates, we're able to offer significant discounts. So you'll have the hotel, the event tickets, and the shuttles and transportation at maybe a 20, 30% discount from what you would get them if you were to buy them all separately through our platform. So we definitely see packages as the future of how everybody should be able to purchase. We strongly believe in the ability to get discounted rates through packaging versus it just being an ease of use type of service.
I guess what I want to find is what is you sort of answered earlier how the three of you sort of figured out day of the first time you ever did this, that this was a huge niche that you guys could possibly fill the gap for. I have a similar situation when I was at Pollen and I saw J Balvin basically annihilate 2,000 room nights within 20 minutes because of the way that it was promoted. And so that was meaningful to me. I've never seen that before, and I've been in this industry for a long time. And so were there any other sort of aha moments with any of your other clients that really just kind of kept you on the path? Because effectively you guys saw this happen and then you said, all right, goodbye job. I'm going to go focus on this for the long haul. Like what was some other occurrences?
I think our major aha moment was when we realized that event organizers are not the only clients that we can work with. For Backstage, there are tons of other companies that do similar things to what we do that could leverage that for their own sales, right? So I think the big aha moment was just that this market is way broader than we even realized, and we're happy to go down that path.
Yeah, I mean, that's the difference here is live events. You've got very defined dates that a travel company can come in and get hotel inventory, but then you have the ticket itself. And so the ticket itself, which drives that demand for that event and everything else that is pulled together, that's another piece. And I think you mentioned that earlier, that you also have some ticketing strategies coming up, maybe with the Explore, if you can talk about any of that.
Yeah. And just the last thing to add on that is that, to your point about like these aha moments, we've always wanted experience providers to be able to focus on the experience, and we wanted to focus on creating the technology to make it easier for them to do it. So our goal is to allow any experience provider to leverage our technology and not think of us as just a competitor in the event space, but a technology company that has all of the software that we're happy to share to make the entire event industry better as a whole, right? So they have no reason anybody out there who wants to focus on experience only and wants travel to be a very seamless process while making the same, if not more than they're making now off of that, they should be able to leverage our technology. And that's a big focus for us in this coming year. But to your point about Explore, so because we had all this great event content and we work with these top events, we wanted to create a destination where you could find experiences and book the travel to them in one flow, because everything that exists is about going to a destination, right? You could go on your kayaks or hotels.com and you can decide what destination you want to go to and book that. But what we have is the partnerships with these events to say, hey, if you're going to Asia in December, what's going on there? Where should I fly to?
Right.
And we can help you to figure that out. So we created this AI marketplace called Explore, where we're growing it right now. And we really have been in a beta phase of it. But the goal is that you'll be able to speak with it to determine what your preferences are, where you're going, what you want to do. And it'll package that together for you into this one experience that you can book for not only our existing event partners, but anything around the world.
Amazing. So I like to wrap up this podcast by asking the guest, what is the perfect, if there was no cost, no expense spared, travel experience? So what destination, what hotel, and what event would you put together for Jordan?
That is a very interesting one.
I mean, I know you're getting married soon, so this could be a honeymoon situation or not, maybe.
Yeah. I am a big traveler, and I'm at the point where I like experiences that shock your general sense of what's going on. Like When I went to Japan recently, it just felt like I was in this like new cartoon world. And I like to just see how different things could be. So my next big one that I would love to do is some sort of safari experience. I'd love to go to an African country and experience a real safari. And I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't say that there's a specific festival or concert that I'd like to get involved in there, but a very curated safari experience where you have some sort of entertainment aspect to it.
Like, who would headline that safari? Could you imagine that? That'd be really interesting. Like, you're in the middle of Kenya and you're on safari, and then there's a big stage, and I don't know, Rufus Du Sol comes out. Who would be the headliner for you? Because obviously you'd be staying in the tent at this point.
Yeah. I would, honestly, that was a good call. Rufus in a safari environment, that would be a very, very cool event. I'm a big rock fan, but I wouldn't say that I want a rock and roll band in safari.
I don't know. Metallica in the middle of the safari could scare all the animals, but that would be amazing. Well, thank you so much, Jordan, for your time. I think everyone has learned a little bit more about Crewfare, about your origin story and the software that you guys provide to festival promoters, as well as to the fans who are looking for new things. We will talk to you soon. Thanks again.
Thank you.
The Tickets to Travel podcast is always brought to you by Expo Travel. Expo Travel is experiences optimized travel, assisting B2B startups and companies with business development in online travel and entertainment ticketing distribution. If your company is looking for ways to boost revenue, increase average order values, or activate your member base with either travel or entertainment ticketing, contact the team at Expo Travel for a consultation today. Visit xpotravel.com. That's xpotravel.com for more information.